hello and welcome to Why Wasn't It Better? I'm your host, Patrick Darms.
And I'm your co-host, Anton Paras.
And we have a very special guest joining us once again. A regular at this point, Garret Ohringer. Welcome back.
Hi, guys. How are you, Anton? How are you, Pat?
I'm doing great, Garret. Especially great because we get to do an episode with you again. All right, number 6, 7.
It's closer to 16, buddy.
12, 15?
I think it's about 12.
How do you guys release episodes? Do people even know who I am yet?
I would think. I mean,
are we in the future recording in the past, or how's it work? Is this like a time loop situation?
Yes. Was it 6 or 16?
6 or 16.
It's definitely closer to 16.
Well, regardless, I'm happy to be here with you both on a freezing cold day in New York City. Yes, listeners, it's still cold in New York.
It's a little chilly in North Carolina.
What's chilly for you? 40, 50?
Yeah, we might get snow tomorrow.
Oh, well, that means North Carolina's probably
dusting.
Hey, it's cold here in the Bay Area. It's like
welcome to Weather Talk with Garret Ohringer.
It's 55.
This episode won't release until the summer.
Okay, so wishing warm weather, and this is going to be a hot discussion about some hot people.
Yeah,
it's going to get real wet in here.
You like to get wet?
Some summer storms.
The warm weather of Takala.
Oh, Takala.
Oh, Takala.
It seems like Takala would be humid.
In the mountains? 12,000 feet up? I don't know.
I wear a good amount of product in my hair. I feel like my hair would be like, I'd look like a chia pet, honestly, there. It's probably humid. I'm with Anton. Let's go to this country.
This is the second recording in a row where we get to talk about a fictional Latin American country, because the last recording we did, License to Kill, took place in the Republic of Isthmus.
Right, exactly.
I love fake countries. We need to do them more in movies and new movies these days.
James Bond has a few. It has Sam Monique, the Republic of Isthmus. That might be it.
It's all just things like off the coast of like France, Turkey, or somewhere in nondescript South America.
Weren't we talking about this in Ultron? Not Moldova. That's a real country.
Sokovia.
Sokovia, that's it, right?
Well, I think my favorite has to be Krakozia. Patnos.
Yeah, is that Venture Brothers?
No, the Terminal.
What's the one from Venture Brothers? Krakozia.
The one from Venture Brothers was...
You know what I'm talking about, right? It's another Eastern European...
It's such a rabbit hole to wonder, where do they come up with these fake countries and decide like where they're going to be placed? And why don't they just use a real country instead? I'm sure there's answers to all of this, and they're totally...
There's an answer for this one, because I know Ecuador didn't want to be associated with the events that take place in this film.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Even though I think they were in real life. I don't know. Don't quote me, Ecuador. I don't know.
I'm sure their tourism board doesn't want to associate with kidnappings.
That's fair.
Do you have any listeners in Ecuador? And if so, listeners, please write in and call Pat out for his attitude towards your country.
I may have a very small following in Ecuador.
Feel free to do that. Very small.
A small village where everyone's named Carlos.
I'll mail them a refund.
There's a story behind this.
Story for another time.
I wanted to throw you a curveball here, Garret. I think that's the last thing we discussed, where you're like, well, what can we have you on for? And I'm like, well, he's seen almost everything. And I decided to pick a film that almost no one has seen.
It's pretty fair based on the box office of this film.
Yes. Anton, is this in competition for most obscure film we've ever covered?
This and Titan AE.
And the Two Jakes?
And the Two Jakes.
What are the other contenders for that? Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Sword of Destiny is pretty unknown.
Now, that's obscure, but it has the connection to all-time great movie, along with the Two Jakes. So this is a bit more novel, and I think that makes it even more obscure.
I feel like 90s and early 2000s especially had these obscure movies that had these huge budgets. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the Insider, unfortunately, despite getting a ton of Academy Awards nominations, I don't know many people. We talked about it. How many people have seen that?
Exactly.
A handful. And that's a shame.
God,
but what does it come down to?
Funded movies. What a time.
Yeah, people just need to watch more movies. Isn't that it?
Oh,
guys,
they do.
Cinema.
Watch Proof of Life. Oh, Garret, I have here's a real weird one for you. We covered recently an obscure Star Wars movie. It exists.
Oh, yeah.
The animated Clone Wars movie that came out in 2008.
Oh, that one, yeah. The one that was the prequel, the backdoor pilot for the Cartoon Network show.
Yeah. Pretty random movie.
Pretty awful. Pretty awful. Isn't that what Jabba the Hutt sons and whatever?
Rada the Hutt.
Yeah.
Stinky boy.
Who's the voice? Because they're like, oh my god, I'm Jabba the Hutt's son, and oh my god, your credits aren't good here.
Harvey Firestein?
It basically, okay, in the actual series on Cartoon Network, there is a Jabba, there's a Hutt-esque character. Anywho,
yeah, Zero the Hutt.
Yeah, and they sound like Harvey Firestein, like, oh my god, your New Republic credits aren't good here.
Yeah. Oh my god, Count Dooku betrayed me.
Count Dooku, you think you could just sweet talk me with that blue milk? It's not going to work in here.
Or as George Lucas would pronounce him, Duoku.
Because he can, and he did.
Yeah, it all rhymes. Well, we're not here to talk about Star Wars. We're here to talk about Proof of Life, which is, I mean, I was not surprised. Garrett told me you had seen it, probably when I saw it, which was during its HBO 2 run in the early 2000s.
This is definitely a movie my parents like rented at Blockbuster to watch with my grandparents, and they were just like, yeah, this looks good. We like both of these actors. Sure. Taylor Hackford. Oh, I love An Officer and a Gentleman. Sounds great.
Anton, set the table for us.
Absolutely. Proof of Life. After oil engineer husband Peter is kidnapped by anti-government guerrillas in the southern American country of Takala, Alice Bowman hires professional kidnapping and ransom negotiator Terry Thorne to obtain the release. Drama and romance ensue. Released on December 8, 2000 by Castle Rock Entertainment and Warner Brothers Pictures, directed by Taylor Hackford, screenplay by Tony Gilroy, read by William Prochnow's Vanity Fair magazine article, Adventures in the Ransom Trade, and the nonfiction book Long March to Freedom by Thomas Hargrove, starring Russell Crowe, Meg Ryan, David Morse, David Caruso, Pamela Reed, Anthony Heald, Godfrey John, and Alan Armstrong. With a budget of $65 million, it came in at $117 million adjusted for inflation, and a box office of $62 million, $111 million adjusted for inflation. Well, we had a really fun intro there. Always fun to have Garrett back. Let's discuss it a bit more. Garrett, why did you want to talk about Proof of Life today?
I love potboiler action thrillers from the late 90s and early 2000s. This sounds really weird to say, but follow me on this. Like pre 9/11, like murky geopolitical thrillers were very much all the rage. Like, you know, especially in the 90s too. We're like, yeah, let's throw $70 million behind Taylor Hackford, Meg Ryan, and Russell Crowe. Like names could sell a movie themselves. Like this is the true blockbuster era too. And again, it's Russell Crowe in his prime when he's in the midst of his just amazing run between LA Confidential, and we were saying this before we started recording, Body of Lies. So he is just all gas, no brakes in this. You could also argue Meg Ryan, literally at the height of her popularity too. And I just remember this being like a movie my parents would love too. And now the older I am getting, you know, closer to my parents' age when these movies came out, I am realizing why they love these movies so much. So it just checks all of the boxes for me. Is it a perfect movie? Sorry to say, I don't think so. I don't want to offend either of you if you think it is, but does it check all the boxes for a fun Sunday afternoon? You bet it does. And that's why I'm happy to talk about it. And also, did I mention Russell Crowe is beautiful?
Okay. Well, I think those are some very great reasons. Now, Pat, you are a huge Russell Crowe proponent, so I'm not surprised to see this on the list, but why don't you go ahead and talk us through why Proof of Life?
This is unironically one of my favorite movies. It has, for some of the reasons that Garrett was getting into, all of the ingredients to have been a successful blockbuster when it came out. Meg Ryan, like you said, you want to talk about successful periods for actors. She had an incredibly successful time from, I guess, what it would have been right after Top Gun until basically this film, which we're going to talk about later. This basically ended her career. Crowe is on the come up. This came out 6 months after Gladiator. This was released during when he would have been campaigning for his Oscar that he would ultimately win in the early months of 2001. Gladiator, of course, won Best Picture. I would say because of Gladiator, he was probably in a tie with Tom Cruise and Will Smith as the biggest male star in the world at that point. He was a household name. Like Gladiator's where he blew up. Now, we were talking about Crowe one of the last times you were on, Garrett, when we covered The Insider. He wasn't quite the household name in 1999 that he would have been at the time this film, Proof of Life, came out. Taylor Hackford was a respected filmmaker in the industry. You know, I'm not going to say he's one of the all-time greats, but he was a known commodity at the time. And I think, which we can talk about later too, and we can get into, pretty unique premise for what I would call a thriller drama. It's not really an action film. So yeah, I mean, all of the successful, promising ingredients for a blockbuster, and this film completely bombed. It lost a ton of money. We were joking about how obscure this is. I don't really know many people that have seen it. Why is it one of my favorite movies? My dad and I just watched this together a lot when it was on HBO too, and it would have been 2001, 2002. I watched this every single time that I saw it pop up on HBO. I couldn't even tell you how many times that I saw it during that time. I liked it enough that I bought the novelization. Yes, there's a novelization. I bought it on DVD. I later bought it on Blu-ray. It's just one of those movies that, despite you never being able to talk about it with anyone else until now, obviously, it was always something that I was part of my library. It always stuck with me. My opinion of it has never changed. I love it. I watched it again yesterday. I love it just as much as I did when I first saw it. And it makes me miss cable TV in a way, because obviously Netflix and the other streaming services have replaced cable TV, but in a different way, right? I saw this simply because we were not even scrolling channels. We probably saw this in TV Guide or listed in the newspaper as the new Russell Crowe movie, and I had just seen Gladiator that summer. I'm like, cool, let's check this out. That's how I discovered it. Anton, you're a first-timer for this, though.
Yeah, first-timer. And that sentiment, though, of a film that hasn't gotten as much love in today's discussion of film, it really reminds me of my affinity for Ronin. You guys know that film.
Hell
obviously.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I don't think critically it was received great. I don't think that there's a ton of folks that talk about that movie a lot, but I just have such a huge love for it because of its syndication on network TV and just watching it a ton with my dad growing up. And I feel like it's that same sentiment that I definitely sense here. And I was really excited to check it out because, Pat, it's very... I don't think it's happened yet that you've made a recommendation for a film, and I didn't find myself enjoying it. So here we are, Proof of Life.
So you did enjoy it.
Oh, I don't want to spoil it.
You can.
Pat, is that the nicest compliment Anton's given you?
It is. I tried not to overreact.
Yeah, listeners, he was grinning ear to ear, and he still is. This is truly the highlight of his week.
It is. It absolutely. The more people I can introduce to Proof of Life, the better.
You know what? One thing I want to say too. Would you consider Proof of Life a dad movie? Like Ronin is a dad movie, for example. Like, is this a dad movie?
I think it is now. I don't think it would have been then.
Right. And I feel like maybe that's what we can get into. Is that one of your categories? Why wasn't it better? It's not a real dad movie? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I'll mention it now because we can talk about it again. Like, a lot of the reviews I've read about this, I think, are entirely disingenuous because they refer to this as like a generic thriller. I don't agree with that at all. This is a pretty unique premise. I've never seen a movie quite like this. Now, there's obviously been movies centered around kidnappings. That's not original. But this particular story with the characters and how it's written, I think is pretty unique.
I think there's just a lot of insecurities for people that they don't want to get kidnapped and Russell Crowe will bang their wives.
Fair. Or in real life, which happened.
Yeah.
Except for the kidnapping thing.
Yes.
You know,
he kidnapped Meg Ryan from Dennis Quaid, I guess
we might as well say that now. This is probably best known, if at all, for the film that broke up the marriage of Meg Ryan to Dennis Quaid, thanks to our friend Russell Crowe.
Yeah, Jack Quaid still hates Russell Crowe to this day.
Is this some of like the juiciest behind the scenes drama for any movie made within our lifetime?
Yeah.
Like within our lifetime. I'm not talking like Nick Morrow, Twilight Zone.
Yeah, we're not talking Cleopatra. No.
Yeah. I would say this, and then something that was really reminding me of the 2000s was Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That's the other one.
I think that is the equivalent.
That's a film I think we should cover, Anton.
That's a good one.
I think that's on the list, actually.
That was a big one.
These are kind of like cousin movies of that in that sense. You know what I mean? Like jumping between genres. Is it a dad movie? Is it for the girls too? Who's to say?
But you say that like it's a bad thing, a dad movie. I don't.
I love dad movies, and the 90s was the magnum opus of like $70 million dad movies. 80s is actual like apex.
I mean, I have it later in the notes, but we can talk about this now. There is no way this getting a theater release in 2025.
No.
You would see this on Netflix, buried.
Yeah.
Real gray man energy.
Sorry. Would A24 take this?
Neon?
Neon. I could see Neon with like a real like horror director kind of behind it as a more quiet film.
I could see it. I could see it.
I could see that.
Do some production history.
Let's do it.
So the screenplay was written by Tony Gilroy. He would have been relatively an up-and-comer in 2000. He was inspired to write the script after reading about the global ransom trade. Movie buffs absolutely know his name, but if the listeners don't, he wrote the screenplays for things like the Bourne trilogy. He wrote and directed the fourth film in the franchise, The Bourne Legacy, the one without Jason Bourne. He wrote and directed really one of my all-time favorite films from the 2000s, Michael Clayton. That's a phenomenal movie that we are going to cover because that was not a box office success, so technically it qualifies for why wasn't it better. He was hired by Lucasfilm in 2016 to do rewrites for Rogue One. He returned to Star Wars as the showrunner. He's the head writer and executive producer of Andor. And there is a connection to Andor in this film, which I will mention later. Even though I haven't seen it, I wanted to include it for the two of you because I know both of you like that show.
Hey, you're a good friend, Pat. Thank you.
Thank you. I try. I think of others when I do these.
Yeah, empathy, man.
Yeah.
That's how we grow.
Before Russell Crowe ended up playing he's not even billed first, so I don't even know if I can call him the lead, although he's the main character. But Meg Ryan is billed first in this film. Mel Gibson was considered. Harrison Ford was offered the role, but he turned it down. No surprise to see those two names attached to this in what would have been, 1999, 2000. Meg Ryan was paid $15 million for this. Just to give you an idea of how big she was at the time, she earned twice what Crowe did.
Makes sense.
It does. It does. The studio wanted to film in Mexico, but director Taylor Hackford insisted on South America. It was the first major Hollywood production to film in the Andes Mountains. It is obviously set in the fictional Republic of Tlaxcala. It is a country that is modeled on Ecuador, as we were touching on in the intro. The maps that you see in this film are of Ecuador, so they're not disguising it much. They wanted to film in Colombia at one point, but due to the dangers that the guerrillas pose in the country, they chose Ecuador. Tlaxcala's geographic and urban appearance and its political characteristics are based loosely on a mix of several countries in the area. I'm just going to say it now. It's probably mostly Colombia.
Makes sense.
Yeah. The fictional organization that you see in this film, the ELT, they are based on something called the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, more commonly known as FARC. And if you've ever seen the Netflix series Narcos, they are featured prominently in that. In the first two seasons.
So Control Risks, a risk consulting firm, was hired to provide security for the cast and crew while filming on location. The firm also provided contacts for character inspiration for the kidnapping and ransom consulting seen in the film. During a break-in filming at Stowe School in Buckinghamshire, where Russell Crowe's character watches his son play rugby, one of the extras asked Russell Crowe for some acting advice. His name was Henry Cavill.
I need to see behind the scenes photos of Fat Cavill, from Proof of Life.
Yeah, I was trying to spot him. I couldn't.
I couldn't see him.
I was scrubbing on Amazon Prime. I looked like I was doing my own forensic work to find Proof of Life, basically.
I love that interview with him telling that story.
Oh, it's a great story. Are you talking about the one on Graham Norton?
On Graham Norton, yeah.
It's a great clip. Listeners, highly recommended. Yeah. Maybe we could put it in the show notes if Pat allows me.
You can put it.
Yeah. During a break-in, I just read that. Filming in Ecuador proved to be problematic. The cast and crew suffered frequent hailstorms, mudslides destroyed the roads to locations, 23 members of the crew came down with severe altitude sickness, 2 volcanic eruptions, and at one point tear gas wafting into the set from a nearby riot. David Morse said, quote, "All of us started feeling like real hostages," end quote. The film is dedicated to Will Gaffney, David Morse's stand-in, who was killed on set when a truck he was in went over a cliff. It sits at a 39% Rotten Tomato score. So
slander.
Very, very critical score. And in part due to negative publicity, which we'll talk more about, the film was a bomb, failing to even make its budget back. In 2002, WB closed Castle Rock's offices and laid off more of its employees after a string of box office disappointments. Not only this film, Murder by Numbers, Hearts in Atlantis, The Majestic, and the $100 million loser, The Adventures of Pluto Nash. Not all of those films are equal, but In terms of the money not made, you can see it. Well, that is our production history. We are, of course, going to dive into the reasons of why Proof of Life wasn't better, or at least why wasn't it received better. So with that, Pat, what is our first reason today?
The biggest reason here is the off-screen drama, which we were mentioning before. This film has plenty of it because it's just known. If anyone remembers this film, which doesn't seem like most people do 25 years later, it's just because of it broke up Meg Ryan's marriage to Dennis Quaid, because she and Russell Crowe had an affair during filming. So the chemistry that you see on screen in this film is as real as it gets.
Yeah. I think that if public opinion was so strong in the 2000s with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, and I remember seeing headlines then of how much of a home wrecker Angelina Jolie was, I can only imagine the scrutiny for a situation like this in 2000.
It's hard to picture this now because Meg Ryan hasn't been in much of anything since this movie, but she was as big of a name as someone like Julia Roberts was in the 90s. She was famously called, she was famously called America's sweetheart.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this just really made a lot of people angry that Crowe was held responsible for this. I mean, obviously, what we know about Russell Crowe, he didn't care, but it didn't affect his career. It affected hers because this movie became real tabloid fodder. It did.
Yeah, one thing that's really interesting about it too, I agree that it basically clashed with her America's sweetheart image, even though like the marriage at that point was pretty much over. Also, wasn't this like around the same time where like Russell Crowe was just like smacking people with telephones? That was around this time.
I think that went on for a while.
Right. But it plays into his persona. And now, Anton, I want to kind of revisit your point. It's really interesting because Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I feel like, got a box office bump due to the affair. And I wonder if it's because it kind of, what's what I'm looking for, melded with both of their images. Like Angelina Jolie was definitely a bad girl, it girl at the time in Hollywood too.
Brad Pitt, a little bit of a bad boy.
And the plot of the movie kind of does engender both of those personalities.
That's fair.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that film did well.
Yeah.
Oh, it did very well.
Yeah. But of course, what I was reading about it is that WB waffled on the promotion. They got real concerned about the negative publicity and it bombed. I mean, it's the box office. It's terrible numbers. Didn't even make its budget back.
Yeah, and
what I was saying earlier when I was listing the reasons, like you just look at this on paper. There's no reason why this movie should have bombed.
You know what? I think that in terms of public interest, I think it's really interesting that this is the same crew that covered The Insider previously, also not great at the box office, despite very compelling story. And I feel like changing taste going into the 2000s, there were lots of these films, but maybe this is also kind of at the turning point of that changing taste from audiences.
You know what I will say too, Pat, I know we kind of talked about like the, contrivances or if this movie was by the numbers, which I also disagree with too. And I know we'll get into it. The mixing of the genres, at least for me, I know I'm getting ahead of myself. I can say the romance of this did not work for me as much as following Russell Crowe's actions and Meg Ryan's reactions to everything did. So the negative reviews, the off-screen scandals, the melding of genres, and I think to Anton's point, like the changing of taste, that people were not so much fed up with these types of movies, but, the high is not the same after you kind of experienced it a few times. All kind of contribute in that regard too. But the off-screen drama, in my opinion, is, the top of the pyramid.
Hackford talked about it too around the time of release. He said, quote, "My biggest fear is that there's been so much exposure, people will think they've already seen this film and they haven't," end quote. And it really did affect the promotion because Crowe and Ryan refused to grant interviews to print and online outlets. And according to ABC News, quote, "They consented to TV and radio interviews over which they had their publicists exercise more control," as Hackford explained, end quote. And this really upset Hackford. He told the Calgary Sun, quote, "I'm deeply hurt they couldn't do interviews and that Proof of Life probably will be best known as the film that sparked a love affair between Russell Crowe and Meg Ryan," end quote. I mean, he was right.
Do you know when Russell Crowe was told of the complaint, what his response was? I don't know if either of you read this.
Tell us.
Go ahead.
His response to Taylor Hackford, quote, "He said that? He's a fucking idiot. No, seriously, what a knob. I'm not going to try his accent, but that is very Russell
Never
Crowe."
talk to him again.
I mean, he kind of threw them both under the bus. So I'm empathizing with Crowe on this one.
Oh, I do too. And we were talking about how you mentioned the romance working for you versus not working for you. I sort of agree with you on that. We can talk about that a little bit more. And the biggest thing now, Hackford tried to explain this away, saying they tried this with test audiences, yada, yada. But there's a whole love sequence, a sex scene in here that they filmed and Hackford cut out. He said, quote, "It was completely my decision. There was no pressure from Meg or Russell, and certainly not from the studio. I screened the film with and without the love scene, and I had to go with the version that worked best for audiences," end quote. I don't buy that at all. My theory is that the studio put pressure on him, because if you have the sex scene in it, the scene where she just comes up towards right before they go on the mission to rescue her husband, and they just start making out. It just comes out of nowhere.
Right. It feels like so much of that relationship, or supposed relationship, I could say, because it very much feels like it's one-sided, at least from what the movie shows the viewer. It feels like they skipped over a very, smoldering scene.
Anton's just judging them.
Anton's so judging. He's like, Meg Ryan is not cool anymore.
I was just more so just thinking kind of about like the changing taste piece. Like, not too far from this, other hostage films in terms of popularity, maybe Man on Fire in 2004.
Ransom?
That's a
Ransom.
movie.
That was before this. But...
That was before. But then even how have hostage films evolved in kind of this same like setup? I just don't think
I've never seen a setup quite like this one.
Yeah.
It is a very good setup, and I also love a good in media res opening of the let me tell you the story and show the flashback at the same time. Like, I know there is definitely a TV trope name for that, but let me tell you, that just pushes all my endorphin buttons when you're going to do that.
The cliched 2000s blue color correcting they were doing.
Oh, the blue color correcting, the italicized font, and just Danny Elfman just going nuts on the score. Oh yes, I know we're getting totally away from the off-screen.
No. This is all related to. The film. Is it? First of all, this is the most unconventional Danny Elfman score I've heard.
It is. I will say, Danny Elfman, he's cooking with gas. Not Spider-Man level amount of gas, but he's got a nice cooking gas burner on this bad boy.
He redeemed himself for Batman Returns.
Batman Returns, he was like, I'm just here so I can get my paycheck.
Yeah. You need weird choral chanting? Yeah, sure.
You know what? I want to go back to Anton's point, too. There's, and to this, let me start that over. I want to go back to Anton's point about changing taste, too. There's a very famous quote from years ago of Trey Parker, Matt Stone, the guys who created South Park. Stick with me on this story over here, where they talk about how storytelling should not be and then, as in a scene shouldn't happen, and then this scene happens, and then this scene happens. It should be more therefore, or but then this happens too. This movie does feel very by the numbers, a very patient setup, two mismatched characters on the run, figuring things out, and then doing something else, and then there's a big explosive finale. Yes, there are some twists and turns, and it's definitely exciting. It's never boring, and the worst thing a movie can be is boring, but it does feel very by the numbers for how the movie plays out, even though the story is original, and Pat, to your point, isn't something that we do typically see on screen, especially around 2000, I would say. Did that make any sense? You can cut this from the podcast if that doesn't play with either of you.
I think it totally makes sense. I see it as dissecting audience takes of maybe more conventional different storytelling.
Yes. If anything, it shows that this movie was edited to bits, in my opinion, to kind of play more towards audience expectations and kind of taste and flavors of the 90s. And audiences rejected that because then it just felt like they'd already seen similar movies to this, even though the story and the setting is obviously much more varied than I would say.
I think it was edited, but I still think despite that, it flows pretty well. Like there's no real holes in the plot. There's a couple contrivances here and there that we can talk about. Of course, the woman, the girl working there recognized Marco's voice. Like, okay, that's a plot contrivance. It's not a hole.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't ruin anything,
Right. And this movie is never boring. And like I said, the worst thing a movie could ever be is boring.
Let's talk about the cast. It's not Russell Crowe's best performance. I think apart from The Insider, though, I think this is his most underrated.
I think he's amazing. He just has such steely, quiet determination that you can see the acting on his face.
And he's never looked better. between this and Gladiator. Like, this is as good shape as he would ever be in.
Yeah, looking solid, right? Looking ripped.
This guy could drink 30 beers and bench press like 265 the next day, no problem.
Completely believable as a former SAS paratrooper.
I'm also glad they let him have his Australian accent in this.
Yes, thank you.
Let actors have their accent. Let them use it.
I need my proof of life.
Pure Russell Crowe.
And I appreciate how the movie does try to explain, so why do you talk with that accent? And it's very normal. It takes 10 seconds to explain. Movies, pay attention. Maybe other studios should be watching Proof of Life.
Well, it's a good writing from Tony G, because he explains how he was in the Australian Army, he wasn't getting enough action, then he joined the British SAS, which is a real thing. The British Armed Forces will take soldiers from the Commonwealth realms. Of course, Australia is one. So that is a accurate thing that wasn't just made up for the movie. We know Tony Gilroy's the guy that does his research.
He wrote a real soldier who smolders, and I really screwed up that delivery of that joke.
Is this the most Russell Crowe performance?
Ooh, I mean, are you speaking to just his pure essence and
this is pure, unfiltered Russell Crowe?
I hear what you're saying, and I'm picking it up. This is definitely what I would expect Russell Crowe to be most comfortable in. But if I've learned anything with Russell Crowe, dude is able to just go all over the acting spectrum. But this definitely feels like a very comfortable place for him.
The steely, smoldering, just like quiet intensity, I think is on full display here. Insider, which we covered previously, is more towards paranoia.
And he disappears into that character. He's almost playing like a character actor type.
You are right.
I love it. I love the role.
No, I'm trying to talk myself out of agreeing with you, but you're so right. And I think it goes back to the point that you were saying before. Could either of you guys imagine a different actor playing this role in your mind's eye?
The way it's written, absolutely not.
I mean,
it's too hard.
Gibson, at some point in his career, he was a little old for it, I think, in 2000. But I know how people feel about Gibson now. But like this, he could have done this.
I think you're right. Around this time,
it's no coincidence he was linked to it, and Harrison Ford. Although Harrison Ford was pushing 60 at this point. Younger Harrison Ford, sure.
I think we were really close to. This was a little too close to What Women Want, Mel Gibson.
Right, younger Mel Gibson, I think.
Yeah, I think maybe a younger Mel Gibson.
Yeah,
but at this
point, he's romantic, comedy, manic, and vigilante Mel Gibson.
He's the Patriot Mel Gibson too. That cheese fest.
Oh no.
An entertaining cheese fest, but a cheese fest.
Yes. No, thank you.
Anton, you'll appreciate this. I wrote down, seeing Crowe in this movie is like watching. I'll give you some sports analogies here. Okay. This is like watching 2000 Shaq, 2012 LeBron, 2016 Steph Curry, or like 2011 like Lionel Messi.
Yeah,
just the peak, just the absolute prime.
This is their MVP year.
Yeah,
he's in his bag.
This is pretty good year for an actor because he's in Gladiator, which is the second biggest movie of the year. It wins Best Picture. He wins Best Actor. And I mean, unfortunately, he was also in this movie that no one saw.
Bro is in what, four or five arguably top tier films within the span of like 3 years.
LA Confidential
97, Insider 99. Gladiator 2000, Beautiful Mind.
Obviously, this is on that list.
Yeah. Master and Commander.
Yeah, sorry. Proof of Life, also 2000s. Oh, and then Cinderella Man in 2005.
Oh, right, Cinderella Man.
Yeah, you said A Beautiful Mind, right? Yeah,
I did say A Beautiful Mind. Probably a beautiful man with a beautiful mind.
Probably should have won the Oscar for that too, right?
That's a really good question.
I mean, Denzel won for Training Day.
Is 2002 Pianist?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Brody.
I mean, it's great performance.
It is. Bad director. Good actor.
Is he a bad director, or was he
bad
actually...
person. Sorry, bad person of a director.
He's a bad person. When Anton and I covered the two Jakes, I non-sarcastically said that I can still watch Chinatown because it happened before his legal troubles, and it's like grandfathered in.
Separating art from the artist is a very...
It's tough.
It's a tough. I agree.
Yeah, and I could... Certain things, like, I just can't really listen to R. Kelly's music anymore, you know?
That's different.
Yeah,
that's different.
Anton, would you like to expand on your love of R. Kelly for the listeners at home?
Just really can't listen to that music anymore.
Anton's raising money for his legal defense fund, I was told. Are you okay talking about that, or no? No?
Sure? He needs more than a legal defense. He needs a priest at this point.
You know who he needs? He needs Russell Crowe to save him from whatever hell he's in.
Funny enough, total aside, this is going to really date this episode. SNL 50 during the In Memoriam. Did either of you guys catch that?
I know exactly what you are referring to, but if you'd like to educate the masses.
They ran a super hilarious In Memoriam supercut of either sketches or like celebrities that have been on the show that has aged horribly. And they do a few scenes where it shows O.J. Simpson, P. Diddy, and R. Kelly on the show.
Fair. It's fair.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
At least they acknowledged it.
Oh, they totally acknowledged
they owned it.
It's a hilarious bit, the In Memoriam sketch. I love it. I loved it. Yeah.
What I love about Crowe here, I wrote down he's in movie star mode, capital M, capital S, capital M. Because he managed, other than the brief flurry of activity that we get in Chechnya in the very beginning, he manages to be a complete badass for most of the movie just by talking. He's not really doing much action. Doesn't need to.
No, but it's I think physically imposing, but then delivery of the lines, it's a very reminiscent of speak softly and carry a big stick.
I mean, he has some absolutely great lines too. So when Meg Ryan is basically pleading with him to stay, to help, to take their case, and then he just turns around walking out the door, he goes, "You asked me not to bullshit you, right? I've got a plane to catch." Boom, end scene. And I'm like, yes, Russell Crowe, that is cold-blooded. I love it.
Buddy's back.
He's back.
My favorite scene is he doesn't have a one-liner in it, but it's where he confronts Marco at the military parade.
Yes.
It's my favorite scene.
That is a very tense scene. That actor looks like his butthole is puckered very tightly. Sorry for that mental image, listeners.
It's a good actor who I've never seen in anything else. He sells that perfectly with Crowe. It's I don't care for Russell Crowe's American accent. You know, Anton, way back when we covered American Gangster, we're like, what's he doing here?
Yeah, but here definitely very natural. Just delivers those lines and just. It's great.
Come to think of it, how many movies has he even done his native accent? It's not many.
Definitely, there's a Greek one. Mystery Alaska.
Thor.
No, I guess he's pretty.
He is doing in Thor.
He's pretty good in L.A. Confidential. I don't remember thinking his accent was goofy in that. Oh, and The Insider, of course, his accent's not bad in that. Maybe I take back what I said. But his accent is like Jor-El, kind of weird. He was like real soft spoken.
I think, just to be fair, if there were ever any imperfections in other roles from like a accent point of view, it's bound to happen. There's going to be some imperfections. I think that it's just so clear him and his very natural element, full on Australian accent, kills it. And it's not as bad as Benedict Cumberbatch doing an American accent.
Benedict Cumberbatch doing an American accent is holding on for dear life.
Awkward.
It's very nice.
I think it was Honest Trailers. Is that the name of a YouTube channel? They said Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange sounds like Alan Rickman trying to do an American accent in Die Hard.
That's funny.
He's trying to fool John McClane.
That's good.
Like, oh no, it almost ruins Doctor Strange for me.
Almost. But then underrated amazing American accent, Idris Elba in The Wire.
Yes.
Also, Hugh Laurie in House. Honestly, it broke my brain when I figured out he was British.
He could have been Doctor Strange, right? That would have been fun.
I would have seen that
20 years ago. If they made Doctor Strange early 2000s.
Yeah.
All right, I have one quick digression. What is your favorite Russell Crowe as mentor from late stage Russell Crowe? What's your favorite Russell Crowe mentor role? Is it Dr. Henry Jekyll and Mr. Edward Hyde in The Mummy, 2017? Is it Zeus, Thor Love and Thunder? Is it Jor-El in Man of Steel? Or is it Nikolai Kravenov in 2024's magnum opus, Kraven the Hunter?
I'm going to watch Kraven, and then the answer is going to be Kraven.
The answer is absolutely none of the above.
That's really his bag right now. Like, that is the roles that he has really been going for these past 10 years. I'll show up, I ain't losing weight, and I'll play old mentor, maybe bad guy.
Can I pick the nice guys? Does that count?
The Nice Guys is just straight up a great film.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Would that movie qualify for this podcast? Commercially rated well?
It might, because
box office not great.
I don't think
it did not do well in the box office.
I don't think it's well liked. I think it would qualify.
Nobody talks about it, and that was a fun movie. And like I said, movies should be fun.
Watching this movie again, you're like, man, Crowe had some of the best range. What a talent.
I miss when movie stars existed, you know? I feel like the title movie star just doesn't apply in 2020.
There's no Russell Crowe now. I mean, that
Adam Driver.
That goofball they tried to put in Gladiator 2, like, get the fuck out of here. Like,
Paul Mescal.
Yeah, just come on.
I want to know if you agree with this take of what makes a movie star. A movie star is someone who can sell a movie based on their name alone on the poster. Like you see Meg Ryan, Russell Crowe, directed by Taylor Hackford in the year 2000. Yes. That sells you. You don't even need to know what the movie's about.
Cruise is the only one left.
We've talked about this before on the show. Leading men of today and leading action movie stars of today are not the same of the 90s and 80s.
Right.
Today's star are wiry boys like Timothée Chalamet.
Hey, wiry, sinewy boys.
There has to be a level of charisma. Like, as soon as you see Crowe show up in Gladiator, you don't even question the fact that he is the commander of this, like, 20,000 person army. You know what I mean? How many actors can pull that off? There's not many.
I don't know. In Dune 2, I feel like Timothée Chalamet rising as Lisan al-Gaib. Not the same.
He embodied the character. I'll say that. I like Timothée Chalamet.
Oh, big fan of Shyamalama Ding Dong.
Yeah, I like him. He ain't no Crowe.
Here's maybe then a better question, right? There's no movie stars today. I think we can all agree on that. But what is kind of the equivalent? Like, movie stars sold movie in the 90s or 80s. You get name alone sold the movie. What is the equivalent as to what sells movies? Do you know what I'm trying to ask by this question?
It could be more IP based now, right?
Yeah. Would you say IP is the movie star of the 2010s, 20s? Yeah.
But it has to be the right IP. Like, if they ever tried to replace Indiana Jones, I don't think it would do well.
I would just say from a Disney standpoint, using Marvel itself as just this as the sticker. So I think Ant-Man is their test for that. Like, if we do anything Marvel and put it out, like, people will watch it.
Ant-Man and Guardians, great two examples.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, great Doctor example. Strange, yeah. I think, all right, that answers the question. Movie stars are to the 80s, 90s, and 2000s in parts, as IP is to modern cinema for what sells a movie.
Back to Proof of Life.
Back to Proof of Life. Thank you for letting me hijack your podcast with my ADD digressions.
No, this is why you're here, Garrett.
Thank you.
Meg Ryan, thoughts?
She's in a different movie. Her character does not work for me in this movie at all. I think everybody is on a very high alert in this movie and manic, but she doesn't come off as almost manic, worried about her husband. I mean, she is definitely worried about her husband. She almost comes off as like sarcastic, almost sardonic, like very playful in parts too, in scenes with Crowe. And it just doesn't play well with his kind of like quiet, smoldering intensity and kind of gravitas towards this situation. To me, it just feels like she is in a different movie than he is in here.
Pat, rebuttal?
Yeah, rebuttal.
I really like her performance here.
Rebuttal me.
I like how she's the fish out of water. I like how they maybe go against a bit of type and kind of put, I don't know if I'd say her marriage to David Morse's character, Peter, is on the rocks, but they have this huge fight the night before he gets kidnapped. And I think you can see in her performance how that's nagging at her the whole time. Is the last thing that she said to her husband before he got kidnapped was some pretty not nice stuff. I think it's reflected in her performance. I don't think she's a tremendous dramatic actor to begin with. I mean, she had definitely excelled at romantic comedies. The only other drama type of thing I have seen her in that I can think of is when she's in Courage Under Fire. And I didn't really care for her in that because she was doing a Southern accent type of deal in that. And it didn't quite sell for me. But I do like her here because she's so out of sorts, which I think is what the character is supposed to be. Same goes for her sister, who you could describe as incredibly annoying. But then, like, you're like, well, that's probably what would happen if this were in real life. And this is, I think, a pretty realistic, grounded film.
Can I just make one comment first, Anton, not to hijack you too? I agree with that. I think Pamela Reed kind of matches that fish out of water manic energy to Russell Crowe's stoicness over here, because she is totally removed from the situation and she is just scrambling, and you can kind of feel the panic and anxiety in her performance too. Whereas Meg Ryan almost just feels like too cool and a little bit relaxed and almost nonchalant, like in places like I mentioned before. There are, you see those moments of quiet tenderness where she really breaks down, especially when she thinks he's dead too. But you don't really see a lot of kind of that worry, that pain, and just like the toll it kind of takes on her up until that point. So it just feels a bit unearned to me. But I do want to say, I agree, she should have done more drama, maybe some thrillers too. Like, I feel like she, with Steven Soderbergh, late 90s, early 2000s, that would have been an awesome set of movies I would have loved to see. So, Anton, I know I am taking up space right here. Please let me allow you to speak about Meg Ryan, our Lord and Savior.
I always appreciate your takes, Garrett. And I think, my 2 cents here is I don't see a lot of roles that Meg Ryan takes like this. I see Meg Ryan in a bit more of a grounded, just more grounded characters that are a bit more relatable on the day-to-day. And that was her bread and butter, right, in the 90s and 2000s. So seeing her in this role felt like, Pat, you made a really good point around probably the writing is to be interpreted. The assignment is, hey, in certain scenes you may come off as really annoying, or I want you to express that. And at the same time, I feel like maybe it's just because of what I've seen her in before that I feel like I'm not completely sold on, the same things that Garrett mentioned around maybe just not being upset enough, maybe just feeling a little all over the place. And I do think that I definitely saw the chemistry between Meg Ryan and Russell Crowe. But in terms of the characterization and the overall just tone I got from her character, I just wasn't as invested. Just not a quite riveting performance from my perspective.
This really did kind of end her career. If you look at her filmography after this, she hasn't been in much since. 10 films in the past 25 years. That's it.
So I was looking into that, and something that I think we have to always think about is not all actors are looking to work continuously, right? Because up to this point, she had been in, it felt like back-to-back multiple films in years. And then kind of going into the 2000s, there's an opportunity to take a break. And I actually, because I wondered the same thing about some other actors and actresses. And I feel like it's a bit, yes, you could always say the correlation is this film, maybe to that end. Did that really put a halt in her career? But I do also kind of naturally see she's getting a little older. Maybe these kinds of roles have to go to, the roles that she typically took in the 90s are probably going to go to some younger actresses.
Yeah, and rom-com shifted in the 2000s. But looking at her filmography, this is how successful she was. This is 86 to this film, Proof of Life, in 2000. Top Gun, Armed and Dangerous, Inner Space, DOA, The Presidio, When Harry Met Sally, Joe versus the Volcano, The Doors, Prelude to a Kiss, Sleepless in Seattle, probably her biggest film, right? IQ, French Kiss, Restoration, Courage Under Fire, Addicted to Love. She's the main voice in Anastasia. City of Angels, You've Got Mail, and then this film, Proof of Life, didn't really have another hit after this for, probably some different reasons that you were getting into, Anton. But I guess it's a clear example of like how long can you stay on top. She was pretty much on top. She was one of the biggest female names in Hollywood for 10 years.
Yeah, and I think it's just very natural that like after being on top for like a decade, things are going to slow down a little bit. I mean,
what happened to Russell Crowe?
What's his track record? Probably goes a bit longer, right?
You know what Meg Ryan's real death knell was? Kate and Leopold the following year. You ever see that movie? Because let me tell you, that is a stinker of a film.
Didn't make money, I know that.
James Mangold, you have definitely redeemed yourself in the eyes of Hollywood, but that was capital.
That was
Y.
Mangold?
Yeah,
good for Mangold, though, for branching out. What a diverse director.
Hey, I like Night and Day. Justice for Night and Day.
So many degrees away from Les Miserables, right? Look at that. That's a funny, interesting little.
That is oh wow, yeah, that is a real kind of
That wasn't Mangold, was it?
No, but Hugh Jackman was in Kate and Leopold.
Right. Another diverse actor, Jackman.
Which Les Miserables, which of course starred our boy Russell Crowe.
Yeah,
as
Meg Ryan.
Inspector Javert.
Yes. Great singer.
He did sing in that, didn't he? Well, he's a singer. He has a band,
Anyway, Meg Ryan. Also, wait, one more thing. She did In the Cut. I love Jane Campion. In the Cut. Not one of Jane Campion's best movies, where she'd try to play really against type in a real against type movie for Meg Ryan.
What's that actor's name who was like the son or the nephew in Hot Tub Time Machine?
Clark Duke.
Yeah, he was like huge in like the 2000s and he's disappeared. He had like a solid like decade of being in comedy.
You were just waiting to find what's a random actor I can think of who had a great run and just faded into obscurity.
He had a great run, but I was
David Morse is a great example of this.
David Morse, that's a great transition right there. Yeah,
yep, there we go.
Great transition, Anton.
Should have been nominated for an Oscar for this movie.
David Morse is great. I
think this is his best performance. He's incredible in this film.
By a country mile. I will say, like, you can really feel the pain and the tension in his character. And also that scene, like 35 minutes in, when he's traversing across the waterfalls on that little zip line, he looks like he's having a little bit of fun there. And I'm like, does my guy have Stockholm Syndrome already? That was a little quick.
Not with Waco.
No, not with Waco.
Not with Waco.
No.
Anton, how riveting was the kidnapping scene?
It's one of those things where it's like, if you haven't seen it before, it's like incredibly well shot.
It's filmed like a documentary, basically.
Like it's very, like, it's, like I said, edge of my seat.
His acting in these scenes it's just so real.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen him in anything recently, but he really was a great character actor during that era. And this, I wasn't being sarcastic. I think this is the best performance of his career.
Speaking of House, he was a great recurring character on House as a Cop.
Right, the villain.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? That might be the last thing I've seen him in.
He's got a really good guy who tries to get you to trust him, but is definitely the bad guy face. Like, he just has a look of I'm going to F you over.
You are rooting for him in this film.
You are definitely rooting for him too, but I could also have done with maybe like 70% less scenes of his mangled feet and legs.
It was tough. I think you need it though, because you're so invested in him getting out. He lost 25 pounds during filming, which you could tell. He's committed to the craft.
It makes the last 20, 30 minutes that much more satisfying.
That scene where Crowe breaks into the hut that's holding him and he is just freaking out, like, that is phenomenal acting by both of them.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, man, it's Oscar level acting. It really is.
Morse was really good. Morse was really good there.
Can we talk about the other David in this film?
You want to talk about the best? You want to talk about
Caruso.
the Oscar?
Dino. First of all, his name's Dino. No last name.
Just Dino.
Doesn't have a last name. I want to give Taylor Hackford a lot of credit because this is the only credible thing I've ever seen Caruso in, and he's really fantastic here.
He let him just off the leash. Let him go.
As I pointed out, I own the novelization to this.
Mm-hmm.
It is very close to the film. The only thing that is different is the characterization of Dino. It is very clear after reading this, Hackford and Gilroy wisely liked what Caruso was doing, and they changed the dialogue to, I assume Caruso was ad-libbing a bunch.
It's, I think, a really interesting spot to see. Would you say, like, should be, like, definitely fits on TV? Like,
definition of a TV actor. He's a B actor.
But I think fit really well in the film.
That's why it's so interesting. Yeah. He's staring down Russell Crowe and selling it.
It's such a nothing character that he just ratchets up to 100 in every scene.
It's all the little lines too. When he's walking around with the shotgun and Janice is like, "Don't you ever put those things away?" And he's like, "Have a cigarette, you'll feel better."
And listeners, this is the same actor who's, of course, in the very famous CSI memes. He really is, like, by definition,
he's a joke.
He is a B actor.
I think earlier in his career, he was more highly thought of when he was on NYPD Blue. But by this point, I mean, the CSI Miami stuff that he did is just hilarious. Like, really? Is she dead or is she not alive?
Yeah.
they're going to get away with robbery, but they won't get away with murder. Just awful.
OCSI.
He also has my favorite line of the movie where Russell Crowe's like, all right, tomorrow we go in, we get the husband. And then he just goes, so basically we just call the army, schedule a battle. How would Wednesday around 3 be for you?
So
on the floor.
Almost every single thing he says is a one-liner.
It is.
Life, liberty, and the ability to purchase clitoris. Arturo, I thought you went legit, man. Arturo.
This is my Panama crew. What? Who introduces anybody like that? That's awesome.
An undefinable level of intensity in every scene, and I really appreciate it. It must be a combination of, I guess Gilroy wrote the dialogue for him after he liked what he was doing, because we can't credit that to Caruso, because his lines are good.
You know, Gilroy probably saw him like improv one take or like say one thing off camera and was like, all right, let me change this whole character and just write David Caruso X 100.
He's delivering every line like it's for the trailer. Really, I think I'm going to check things out uptown.
Sounds like he's trying to test a tagline for the film on the poster.
Did you guys watch a trailer for this, by the way?
Yeah.
No, but is it just David Caruso talking?
It's got some. He's in it, but he doesn't give any lines. But it feels like the 2000s in the best way, if that makes sense.
They have really good chemistry together. I'm just going to assume Crowe and Caruso did a lot of hanging out offset.
A lot of drinking.
I'm probably, I don't, I'm
cigars, drinking.
Yeah. Other things, having fun with the local talent. I don't know. Right after they crashed the Arturo party with the cash and stuff, did you recall the next morning, Crowe just walks up to him and he's just like, that was fun, right? And he's like, yeah.
Also, speaking of editing in scenes, that is the funniest thing. Either those guys are dirty cops or incompetent cops, whatever. That's totally fine. But then they basically have a Mexican standoff of sorts in front of Meg Ryan and Pamela Reed, and then
wait. Do you mean a to Colin standoff?
Damn it!
There we
go. Nice Pat. That was really good.
All the lines that Arturo's saying. No, you are the asshole.
It's just so funny, and then. Yeah, they take the guns, kick them out of the house. You never see Arturo and those characters ever again. And then the next morning, they're talking like they just had the greatest sex. Like, that was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah. He's just like, yeah.
Ooh.
So great.
That's where I need Meg Ryan to be like, anyone want to tell me what the fuck was that yesterday? Like, that's where I need that kind of fourth wall breaking of sorts.
He's like, you're trying to go in there? He's like, I'm not trying, man. I'm doing it.
Does David Caruso's Dino ever ask women for consent?
I don't want to go there. His name's Dino. Like, Dino.
I think he's very
Dino,
sexually aggressive.
Dino. Oh, hi,
Very
Dino.
aggressive.
What's your last name? Just Dino.
I didn't know Caruso had it in him. I'm just, every time I watch this movie, I'm like, this is Caruso, really?
I love it. Best character in the movie by a Colin mile.
I should have wrote down more of his lines. I'm struggling to remember them now, but like almost every single thing he says is pretty memorable.
Did you guys notice veteran character actor Margot Martindale?
Yes, there's a few of them in this
character
movie.
Actress Margot Martindale, my favorite.
Yeah.
There's a few of them. Dr. Chilton.
Yep, Dr. Chilton.
Did you recognize General Urimov as Eric Kessler?
I did not. Oh, man.
Urimov from Goldeneye. He's the missionary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, great role. He's good in this.
Let me tell you, that's some overacting right there. He saw what Caruso was doing in one scene and says, not to be outdone, watch what I can do on camera.
I liked how they explained it, though, how he was pretending to be crazy. It wasn't just some stupid character, right? Like there was real storytelling behind it. He's the MVP of the movie, actually, if you think about it, because he gets out with the map.
That's true.
100% the MVP of the movie in terms of
if he doesn't get out, and he was a soldier. He was in the French Foreign Legion, so like you kind of believe that he like knew how to get out of the jungle. Like, all right, he was a soldier. Like he's not just some guy.
Yeah, I think that it's a really interesting point you put out there. That if anything, the starters in this film are great, but then also a really strong bench.
Great bench.
You don't see much of him, but Alan Armstrong plays the other British hostage negotiator who's working in Takala. He's not really in the second half of the film, and then Michael Kitchen. I don't know if you recognize him, Anton. He plays Luthen, the head of Russell Crowe's company. He was in Out of Africa, which we reviewed a kind of recently. He also plays Tanner in a couple of the Brosnan Bond films.
Yes.
Yeah, well-known faces here. Pamela Reed, obviously. I think she's really good here. She's playing the part well.
Pamela Reed works for me. She also just disappears from the movie, too. You know, she's just, all right, I'm going to go back to Virginia and see what money I can scrounge up. I'll move some things around.
Alice is like, you go put that money together and I'm going to hook up with Terry.
And that goes back to my point of Meg Ryan is in a totally different movie.
I don't know who played Waco, but you hate him. One of the most punchable faces ever.
Love Waco. Smoking whatever he's smoking and just being a terrible soldier.
There's a couple scenes when Peter's just messing with him, when he's saying, like, you sleep with the pigs. And then the scene where he's trying to get him to shoot him, he's like, when he's like yelling at him with the rifle.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, but also it's pretty intense.
It's really good there, too.
I just want to credit Gilroy again because there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but none of it overpowers the main story. Like, there's national governments and there's oil companies and there's like local petty politics. There's the army trying to do its thing. But none of it overpowers the central plot.
You know, I have one criticism of the cast, and it is why was David Caruso just not in the movie more, honestly? You know, one thing we haven't even talked about, too, is when they're also breaking out the second hostage, the guy who looks like basically every prisoner from a Metal Slug game, the Roman pastor or whomever. He's like, you like Roma? You like Roma? Well, we're going to get home to Roma. And the other guy's like,
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. And he's like, Roma, yeah. And the other guy's just
don't die on me.
Don't you die on me. Don't you die. We're getting out of here. And the guy's like, Roma, yeah.
What does he say when they get back? He's like, stuff of legends.
Stuff of legends. And he's like, what am I? What am I? A fucking asshole. Yeah.
That's right. He always does this.
He always does this.
So good.
David Morse has like 9 holes from booby traps in his legs and feet. And he's just like, oh, please.
At what point during filming do you think Caruso approached Hackford and he was like, listen, I think Russell and I should switch roles?
Day one.
Exactly.
Pre-production.
His agent was fighting that battle.
Gladiator.
Many days.
I don't know about it. Have you seen Jade?
I have such range.
This has to be the greatest one-off performance I've seen in a movie because I've never seen him do anything this good.
It is so good.
I'm trying to think of other.
There aren't any. Well, I read that he retired after CSI Miami. He just took the money, and I don't know how many roles were available to him. He does seem like the kind of actor that would be in like multiple Roland Emmerich films.
He also seems like the type of guy who would be in multiple video on demand or direct to DVD movies like Sniper 3 if Tom Berenger wasn't doing all of them.
I mean,
like a Seagal film.
Yeah.
He's
Under Siege 6.
His whole profile screams to me someone that would be in like early video game cutscenes from like 1988.
Yes, I could totally see that.
Like just generic police chief.
I see it. I could totally see that. Like in the early like PS1 when they had like those like kind of like DVD type openings. Like you could totally see him as like a character from like Resident Evil's like Raccoon City Police Force or something like that.
Command and Conquer. Yeah. He's like one of the extras in Command and Conquer.
I could totally see that.
In like a Civilization video game on PS1. And he's like, you need to take over India. You're like, whoa, David Caruso. Like
he would just do that. Come with me over here. And then the cutscene brings you out into
the Republic of Takala sends its regards.
A video game based off Proof of Life would be really cool. Like a good kidnap and ransom video game. Like you have to negotiate the release and then actually get the hostage out. I would play that video game.
I think if there would be a video game for this, it would just be an on-rail shooter a la Time Crisis.
Yeah, unfortunately. When we all know this should be like a real Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright type style game.
Yeah, Ace Attorney / Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain, I think. Let's take those game mechanics.
Let's talk the production of this film. I'm just going to sing Tony Gilroy's praises again. This has really intelligent exposition throughout. There's a lot of exposition in this film, but it all sounds natural to me where Terry's explaining everything to Alice and Janice because it doesn't feel clunky. You're like, well, they would ask these questions.
Yeah, and another point that you made earlier that I totally agree with, everything in universe makes sense and it's set up with an explanation. And I feel like it just adds to this story, which is in the best way. It's very easy to follow along.
The company that Terry Thorne, Crowe's character, works for is called Luthen Risk. Gilroy would use the name Luthen again in that Andor series. For Stellan Skarsgård's character, his name's Luthen.
He is the man who does take a lot of risks in the show.
I promised you I would bring it back.
That's very good. Very good. Hey, thank you for teaching me something new today.
I didn't know this. Gilroy and Hackford had worked before on Devil's Advocate. That's fun. Yeah, he wrote Devil's Advocate. He apparently it's a novel. I didn't know that. It's adapted from a novel.
The Pacino film?
Yeah.
With
Keanu.
And
Charlize. Taylor Hackford.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Hackford. Yep, Taylor Hackford.
Doing his thing here. Deft touch. This is nicely directed. I really like the set pieces.
The action is really well filmed, and there's a lot of really good practical stunts and some very impressive camera work, too.
And not an action director. A lot of modern action films could learn something from this, because something we talk about a lot on this podcast, spatial geography.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this film does it well. The final 30 minutes where they're rescuing Peter and the Italian job.
Yeah, what is it? It's the timing and the distance. And that, along with the pacing, perfectly in sync.
Nothing drags too long. The tension's like perfect. It's about 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, the closing scene.
It's a tight 20 minutes too.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite part of the film.
It's his best. Oh, I think the last 30 minutes of this film are just about perfect.
It's definitely my favorite part. Like you're saying, just the tension, the pacing. It's the best. It's the best way to really just unravel all of the tension that's been built up, and at the same time, everything's ramped up to 11. It's amazing.
When Russell Crowe gets David Morse and they're about to get out, and whoever it is, Waco or one of the other nondescript ELT guys, comes around the corner, and then you just have the classic, what do we do? I don't know. What do we do? I don't know. What do we do? And it just keeps ratcheting up the tension more and more. And then he just says, go loud. I'm like, yes, let's go really loud. It's time to make this an action movie.
They even get the dialogue right. Downtown 1, this is downtown. It's just cool. Like it works.
Other great Dino line, when Russell Crowe basically takes out the guy, we get a Downtown 1. What the fuck was that?
Yeah. Downtown. Yeah, this is some of Hackford's best directing. I mean, obviously, clearly, you guys aren't rooting for Terry and Alice. I was. I think their chemistry was great. But at the same time, you're rooting for Peter to get home.
Yes.
That's hard to do for a director.
100%.
It is a very odd love triangle. It's almost like the love triangle of like responsibility, and I get like I'm talking for Russell Crowe, the responsibility of saving the David Morse character, and
duty and love.
Yeah, and wants and desires. Basically, it's like wants versus needs.
He never wavers in trying to save Peter.
Yes. And that's the one thing I think I can appreciate. He never even tries to, subterfuge their relationship or undercut him or say, you know what? He could have literally said, I think he's dead, and then just carried on with the relationship and totally have been her new husband. But man has a sense of duty and responsibility. And you see it through, literally.
It's 135 minutes. I do think it's paced pretty well. I don't think you need the Chechnyan intro, but I have in my notes, it's on simmer the whole time, which is why it works.
The one thing I would say, maybe where you can cut out a little bit of fat in this film, the initial negotiations where they're negotiating for the proof of life, it's pretty much the same beat over and over. He's quietly, stoically talking to the negotiator on the other side. Meg Ryan freaks out. He then says, calmly, I think he's dead. Proof of life.
Look at his feet.
Exactly. Smokes a cigarette. And then maybe we can do 500,000. Smokes another cigarette too. So that beat for beat happens a lot too in multiple scenes. Probably could have trimmed a little fat there.
125 minutes might have been about perfect, but I just like how Hackford films everything. It's a very I put down naturalistic. It's just like a gritty feel to it.
Mm-hmm. Everything feels very real and lived in. Tactile, I think is the word we're looking for here.
Yeah. Who is the DP on this? Why did I not write this down?
It is, who's it? Slawomir Itchak? I can't pronounce it.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. He also shot Black Hawk Down for Ridley Scott.
You can feel that for sure.
Also, Gattaca, very underrated movie.
Ooh. I love that movie.
It's on our list.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorites.
Love me some Gattaca.
Everything I want out of a sci-fi movie.
Yep, Ethan Hawke.
Not because of what were you going to say, Anton?
Well, just because I also have a character with my name in it.
Wait, is that where they met? Him and Uma Thurman?
Oh.
It would have been, right?
Yeah.
I guess.
They got married in 98, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah.
Why do I know they got married in 98? I don't know.
Well, they have a daughter who looks just like both of them.
Yes.
It's like a perfect...
That's a great 50-50.
Yeah, that worked out well for all involved.
Good job, Jeans.
Jack Quaid looks a bit more like Meg Ryan.
But you can tell they're both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jack Quaid.
Now Jack Russell, though. No, sorry, Wyatt Russell.
Yeah, I'm gonna let him fix this one.
Yeah, he'll follow up.
He'll figure it out.
Yeah.
He's got it.
What else can I say about this? Did we want to say anything about Hackford? I mean, do we like Hackford?
A very wide range of movies. Very wide range of movies.
He does.
I think he's made some of the biggest cult films of all time, right? Like Blood In, Blood Out. That's huge.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Officer and a Gentleman was a huge hit, and that's not a cult film, obviously. It's probably his most famous film, right? I would
Absolutely.
think.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. That's a true classic.
The legacy that holds up the most for his filmography, for sure.
And Ray will always just kind of stand as an awesome performance by Jamie Foxx.
Yes,
so.
That's the correct way of saying it.
I don't care. That's
but then Devil's Advocate, which
fun movie,
an
outrageous Pacino performance.
I love Pacino. Al Pacino as a hostage negotiator. We've seen that movie. I'll watch this again.
What's the movie where he's a hostage negotiator?
Not hostage negotiator, sorry. Dill, I'm tired. It's been a long day.
This would have been the era where Pacino could have pulled it off.
Cut this entirely.
Listen, we're going to prove a life and we're not paying.
Yes. Imagine Al Pacino in the lead role of this movie, though. Now that is an awesome film. Him leading a chase in Takala. Oh my God. Imagine him jumping up to hang off a helicopter. Russell Crowe could, and Al Pacino definitely could.
You could throw an insider line in this film. Just put him on the fucking phone.
Honestly, he would have worked as a hostage negotiator. That character from The Insider.
That brings us to Russell Crowe. Yeah, I wrote down I want to give Hackford credit for successfully making David Caruso look cool.
That man is cooler than a polar bear's toes. That's how cool he is.
He's got a number of leather jackets in this film. He's like 3 or 4, I think he's wearing at one point. You know, Caruso requested that. You think I can get a couple more leather jackets, Taylor? Can we make that work?
I want to kind of go back to this too. One thing I also appreciate about David Caruso is that he calls Russell Crowe out on his BS, as in like, you're kind of falling in love with Alice over here. And he actually challenges him to and sees it. And he clocks it almost immediately.
And Crowe doesn't respond to it, really.
He doesn't at all.
Because he knows it's true.
Yeah.
He knows it's true. And that is also why I will say, the romance part of this movie, that's what's really undercooked. I think, Pat, to your point before, this script, everything makes sense. There's some contrivances here and there, sure, but everything is very well explained. But a lot of things in this stew are a little undercooked, especially the romance portion of it.
The only thing that didn't make sense, and I'll be objective here, is so Marco reveals to Terry that there are no more deals. Peter's never getting out. He knows too much. So why was he still alive? What was the point of keeping him alive after that if they're not going to ransom him?
It's a really good question.
Makes no question.
Actually, there's question.
No answer.
Did I just ruin this film for myself? Oh, no.
I don't even have a clever joke to make. That's a great point.
Because they can't cut a deal.
Right.
No deals. Yeah.
So, why are they still feeding him? Hope I just didn't ruin the movie for
he's got, good vibes. And
kind of grow on them.
Yeah.
Spanish is okay.
Right. He doesn't develop Stockholm Syndrome. They develop Stockholm Syndrome for him.
Exactly. Reverse Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, reverse. He threw an Uno reverse of Stockholm Syndrome at him.
I don't know why no one's ever made a movie about that, because that is what happened in real life to Julius Caesar. This is a true historical story. So he got kidnapped
by
pirates.
Okay.
They were going to they were not the French. This is before that. They were going to ransom him, and he, being the naturally charismatic leader that he was, he convinced them that they were asking for too little. He was way more important. He insisted that they ask for more. He ended up befriending them all. They ended up releasing him, and he had them all killed because he was Julius Caesar. Like, wouldn't that make a great movie? Maybe.
I'd watch it.
I'd see it. The ending's a downer.
Oh, by the way, thanks for letting me go. You're all dead.
You're all dead.
I can't let you live now. Like,
maybe play it as like a Monty Python sketch. That way, it's more of a black comedy.
We could write it.
Honestly, I'd definitely see it.
Yeah, give like Armando Iannucci that script. He could make a good like black comedy out of that. Kind of Death of Stalin-esque.
My last thought about Proof of Life. Unique story, also unique setting. I don't think I've seen anything shot in Ecuador. Pretty great on location photography. The end credits where it's just the helicopter. Great stuff.
Well, thinking about this too, for sure, like on location, like that crew had to have eaten some guinea pigs.
They went through hell.
I would love to just like read someone's diary of like a week in the life of filming this movie from the production crew.
Russell Crowe has his diary. He's like, I had to eat the guinea pig.
Now I'm just picturing Russell Crowe writing a diary, and I just like imagine him laying on a bed, feet kicked up in the air.
Daisy.
Yeah, he's like, I was eating guinea pigs with Meg Ryan. Yeah, she was chain smoking.
She was totally into me.
She was totally into me. Dennis Quaid's a fucking knob, just like Taylor Hackford.
Go play Ronald Reagan.
Go play Ronald Reagan.
In the future.
In 24 years, you're going to be a loser playing Ronald Reagan.
I don't even remember what I was about to say. I don't know. If you want to hear more, the DVD contains pretty good director's commentary from Hackford.
Does it have the sex scene as a deleted scene or no?
No. He talks about it, though. It's not available as a deleted scene.
Yeah, Taylor Hackford just has like one master copy of it all, just for his eyes only, huh?
Him and Helen's.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's kind of amazing that he's the guy that married Helen Mirren.
Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for Helen Mirren. Taylor Hackford's a good-looking guy.
Yeah, I guess. I never thought of him like that, but sure.
Oh, that's not what you think of him as? Yeah.
No.
Screw Officer and a Gentleman. I just look at that mane of hair.
What else can we add before we wrap this up? I don't think there's much else.
Well, I asked the question before the episode.
You did. Yes. This is the time. This is the time.
This, or we can debate this, but what is the best movie based off a magazine article or a newspaper article? Because obviously this movie is based off of an article itself. So I'm going to pose the question to you guys. There's many candidates. I'm happy to list a few examples, but would love to hear from you.
I think prolific writers always take the cake for this. So anything Hunter S. Thompson. What is it? Fear and Loathing.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly The Insider.
Absolutely, 100%. The most dated, but also just feels right for when I grew up. And of course, it would make sense as an article. The Fast and the Furious.
That is what I was going to say. As in my personal favorite.
Wasn't that based on Point Break?
Well, the story structure, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But the article itself was
that's fair. That's fair.
Like the racing culture of like LA, and like having grown up in that era of like, what is it? Tuner imports, B-boy dancing, and that whole like that whole culture. Yeah, that feels like home.
I also think, for me, Fear and Loathing, Fast and Furious is definitely up there too. Coyote Ugly, that is a fun one. And that was based off an article, believe it or not. Also, as someone who lives right next to the original Coyote Ugly in New York City, I might have a little bit of biases towards it.
Is that the original Coyote Ugly? Because I embarrassed myself in Austin, Texas.
Well, the original New York City one, which I guess is the original one.
Because I went to a Coyote Ugly in Austin, Texas, and I said, this is the original one from the movie? And the bouncer's like, hell no.
Yeah, it's definitely the New York one. Also, another Russell Crowe film, American Gangster. That is another candidate, too.
Based on an article, Argo.
I think Argo, honestly, because I remember reading about that in high school and thinking this is one of the coolest, like, stranger than fiction stories.
In Cold Blood is based on an article. That's a good one.
Boogie Nights, also, Almost Famous. Some really great 90s and early 2000s movies.
Some of these will be on our list eventually, Garrett. Almost Famous is because it didn't make money.
Oh, man.
There you go.
But did great for Elton John.
Did.
Honestly,
Overrated movie.
Vanity Fair, though, a lot of Russell Crowe here with Proof of Life and The Insider. Russell Crowe really likes starring in movies based off articles, is kind of what I'm gathering from this off-the-cuff discussion.
I mean, he's a big fan of Vanity Fair. You didn't know that?
No, can't say.
I just made that up. I don't
I was like, can't say I've,
On another point, I like to think that Russell Crowe also writes in his diary toys that weren't out when Russell Crowe was a lad that he wishes were from his childhood. And he's writing Battleship, Rock'em Sock'em Robots,
Cards Against Humanity,
Exploding Kittens.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a big fan of Exploding Kittens. You think Russell Crowe plays Codenames? I bet he'd be fun as hell to play with.
Ooh, that'd be super fun.
He'd be fun to do anything involving alcohol. Well, until it would be fun for a while, and then he would hit the wall where the rest of us were like, well, we're going to go home. And that was just his pregame. I say this with all the love in the world for Russell Crowe. I really am one of his biggest fans. I think I'd put him in my top 5 favorite actors ever. I really would.
So you play a round of Settlers Catan with Russell Crowe?
Yeah.
I would not block him in, though, with The Longest Road. He would absolutely beat the ever-loving crap out of me. He'd be like, oh, yeah, one wheat for brick? How about this? Take 1 brick for your face. I'd be like,
yeah,
please stop.
He'd flip the table.
Yeah, Russell Crowe, if you're listening, we're sorry for our really bad accents. And
we love you, Russell Crowe. We really do.
Please come on the show. This isn't even my podcast, but please come on the show.
I'd love to have Russell Crowe on.
Yeah, please give us a list of toys that you wish you had as a lad.
This honestly might be my favorite Crowe performance.
He's the man.
Is it controversial to say that I like him more here than in Gladiator?
It's definitely a hot take. I'll give you that.
Gladiator is a better acting performance, but this, for me, I don't know why. I'm going to stop talking and just give my rating then. Because
Pat, you hated this movie, right?
This is an easy A for me. I'm just going to say it right off the bat. This is everything I want from a drama/thriller, because you can't call this an action movie. This is the definition of underrated. I think people throw that term around a lot, overrated, underrated with films. This one for me is absolutely underrated. It's the most underrated film we've ever covered, Anton. I think the story is very intriguing. It's really unique. It's top tier performances. I think I like Meg Ryan's performance clearly better than both of you. I don't think she's great. I think she's good, which is good enough for me here. I didn't know Caruso had this in him, and clearly, since I've never seen him do anything else like this ever again, it was a one-off. But if you want prime Russell Crowe and strong writing from Tony Gilroy and plenty of suspense, check this movie out. I really hope that more people end up seeing this movie as a result of this podcast, because I think this is a great film. And the more attention it gets, the better. Yeah, easy A for me.
Well, Garrett, would you like to go next?
Sure. I don't know how I could follow that. That was like better than Wedding Vows, like proclamation of love right there. That was really like well said. I think listeners and you both know this by now. I am not as big of a fan of this movie as Pat was, which no offense to Pat, but I don't think anyone is as big of a fan as he is.
None right taken.
Now. But jokes aside, I do think this is a very fun and enjoyable and a great rewatch too. Unfortunately, I do think it is less than the sum of its parts. There are a few things that are a bit undercooked for me. I think the romance subplot just doesn't work as well as it does. Meg Ryan, great actress, just doesn't feel like she belongs in this movie with the character that she's playing. Almost a little bit too lighthearted and goofy against the stoicness smoldering. I've used the word smoldering around 12 times now for Russell Crowe here too. Again, I talked about before, but it really just feels like a movie where a lot of things just happen. It's a real and then type of movie. That said, all of it is never boring. I never felt the runtime of this movie. And I will say it again. I've said it once. I'll say it again. The worst thing a movie could be is boring. And this movie is definitely not it. And I had a great time rewatching it. But like I said, not the greatest. So I give it a very respectable B-.
Okay. I would have given this movie an A if they'd kept in the sex scene.
It's why I didn't give it an A+.
Exactly.
Yeah.
10-year-old Anton needed it.
And look, I think this is one of those especially special circumstances where the behind the scenes is just fascinating and a very key part into the overall lens of looking at this film and its success. And I think that it is very scrutinized harshly, considering some controversies behind the scenes. But at the end of the day, wow, what a fun film. So entertaining. My first time seeing it, and it was just so much fun. And I feel like it's not a hard carry by Russell Crowe more than he just elevates his film so much, because we also have fantastic performances from actors like David Caruso, who I did not expect to really bring the A game in this film. And so while I'm also just not as much of a fan of Meg Ryan in this film, I feel like having her star power in there really should have brought way more attention to the film. I think it was judged harshly because of, again, just the controversies with their romance offset or onset. And I don't think that that should be held against the film. I think that it is so entertaining, very watchable to this day. And considering all of that, look, feel, pacing, enjoyability, and rewatchability, I have to give this film a very solid B. But an A+ performance from Russell Crowe.
That's what I like to hear. I tried to find the tie that he's wearing in this film over the years. It's some obscure rugby team. Never been able to find one.
Doesn't he own a rugby team in real life? Did I make that up?
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Some Australian
sport.
Maybe AFL.
It's just cool that he's just wearing a rugby tie throughout this film.
Yes. God, he is a cool man. I think we like Russell Crowe. What do you guys think? Do we like Russell Crowe?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Honestly, if someone said they didn't think he was a good actor, I would have no respect for them.
No, that would be a hot take in the wrong way. But a hot take nonetheless.
Well, that's it for Proof of Life. Garret, it's always wonderful to have you on.
Pleasure is on this side of the microphone. Thank you both for including me as always, and I hope we do it again soon.
Yeah, we'll have you back, Garret, soon.
Great.
And yeah, that's it for this week's edition of Why Wasn't It Better? If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and listening, give us a follow and a 5-star review. Check out our YouTube channel as well. We have various levels of subscription there. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and if you want to support us directly, we have a Patreon. Links are in the description. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.